Mist clung to the harbor town like a second tide, beating on rope and cobble. Rowan, a woodcarver with resin-stained fingers, followed a thin, metallic coughing that didn't sound human. It drew him down the fishmonger's alley where cages hung from a crooked beam, trophies from men who hunted what the sea never birthed. In the smallest cage, no bigger than a lantern, curled a creature the length of his hand, green-black scales veined with ember gold. A diadem of bone ridged her brow, and her folded wings shivered as if the mist itself gnawed at them. When she looked up, her eyes were dusk, deep-irised like a cat's, bright with fever and ferocity. "Don't," she rasped. "Don't come closer." Rowan raised both palms. "You're cold. I am danger." She coughed again. A thin thread of smoke leaked past needle teeth. Where it touched the wood of the cage, lichen blackened, shriveled, and fell like ash. The sign above her said rare dubim, life. Do not feed. Rowan met those dusk eyes and without meaning to, smiled, soft as a candle in draught. Even danger deserves a coat. He shrugged off his wool, tore a strip free, and threaded it through the bars. She hissed, but not with conviction. The cloth brushed her shoulder, and she inhaled it as if warmth itself were a memory she'd misplaced. "Name?" he asked. "Nyari," she whispered. "Princess of Night Coil. Smallborn. Unwanted. Until men learned what my breath can do." He found the catch. A padlock clamped it shut, iron already scarred where her breath had kissed it. "Hold still. You don't understand." Nyari pressed herself to the back of the cage. "When I exhale, fields die. Flesh stops. Rivers forget to move. I breathe quiet, the end of things." "You breathe what you were taught to fear," Rowan said. "Maybe it's not all it does." He fished a pick from his belt, worked at the lock. The mechanism chattered. Footsteps clacked at the alley mouth. Two men in sea leather, crossbows slung. "What are you doing?" one demanded. "Returning stolen royalty," Rowan said and twisted. The lock cracked. The door fell open. Nyari surged out, a streak of green fireless lightning. One hunter swung a net. She drew a breath like a tide pulling back, and exhaled. Mist turned black where her breath flowed. Net cords rotted in midair. The man screamed as the edge of the vapor brushed his sleeve, leaving fabric limp and dead, but the arm beneath unmarked. The other dropped his crossbow and ran. Nyari hovered, chest heaving. The alley was silent. Nothing moved where her breath had touched. The puddle went still as glass. A beetle ended mid-step. Rowan looked at her, heart thundering, and smiled. Not bravely, just honestly. "You didn't kill him," he said. "It wasn't aimed at him." She glanced at the still puddle, at the quiet beetle. "It never listens when I beg it to spare the little things." Rowan held out his hand. "Come on, Your Highness. Let's get you warm." Rowan's workshop smelled of cedar, beeswax, and the sweet ache of sap. He set a thimble of water on a brazier to steam and tucked Nyari into the curve of a lantern he'd carved, its panels inlaid with mica that turned firelight into stars. She coiled in the glow, trembling, easing to a low murmur. "Why would a human risk his neck for me?" she asked, voice floating in the lantern like smoke. "Because I know what it is to be blamed for what you can't help." He poured the steam into the wool strip until it dampened and pressed it near her scales. "When I was small, my sister caught a root rot that climbed from the fields into her blood. The apothecary said it was natural, the way things end. He couldn't do anything. I still make things with my hands because they failed that day." Nyari lifted her head. "Your sister. Gone." Rowan's smile faded to memory. "But I learned endings have flavors. Some can be steered." She laughed, a bright involuntary bell. You think you can steer death, human? I think we can learn what your breath prefers to eat. He fished through drawers for wire, mica scraps, thin copper veins. I've been working on a toy, a wind mask, for whistles on ship masts. Might shape a flow. Nyari unfolded her wings, climbed onto his wrist. She weighed less than a loaf of bread, yet every line of her felt like a promise of force. You'd let me aim it at you, she asked. Never at me, he said. At a rotten apple first. They practiced by twilight. Rowan set an apple gone soft in a bowl. He fastened the little copper veins before Nyari's muzzle, a contraption like a delicate beak with sliding leaves. On my count, he said, voice steady though his pulse was not. Think of the rot, not the apple. Think of the wrongness in it. Nyari trembled. What if I end your house? What if I end you? Rowan's smile, the one that had melted her fear in the alley, bloomed again. Then start very small. She drew breath. The room listened. She exhaled through the copper leaves, and a hair-thin thread of shadow licked the apple. The skin grained in a line. Mold collapsed as if scolded. The apple itself, beneath the slick, gleamed suddenly clean. The bowl did not die. The table did not quiet. Rowan's lamp flame shivered and kept on burning. Nyari lowered the contraption. I tasted it, she whispered. The rot is loud. My breath like silence. I can give it the right silence. You can, he said, laughing, reckless with relief. We just have to tune the veins. Night after night they tuned. He carved rings to open and close like iris leaves. He hung chimes from the rafters to give her a note to aim at. Sometimes she missed and a curl of floorboard faded to drift. Once a moth dropped mid-flight, and Nyari sobbed until Rowan's hand, broad, warm, ridiculous, sheltered her like a roof. He smiled, and the panic cooled to something she could hold. Your smile, she grumbled, trying to sound offended. It turns my fire to butter. Then I'll keep it ready, he said. They came just before dawn, the Warden of Iron's men, with cudgels and links of black chain that smelled of old rain and ore. Rowan woke to splintering wood. Nyari flared from the lantern, a hiss like a kettle at boil. A chain looped through the air and caught Rowan around the shoulder. Barbs bit. He cried out, stumbling. Don't, Nyari pleaded, voice breaking. Let him go. The captain smiled with too many teeth. Princess Nyari. The warden will be delighted. We have a kingdom to end. Rowan, bleeding, found her eyes. He had no strength to smile, but he did anyway. Just enough to wrinkle the corners. Tune 3, he whispered. The low note. Nyari's fear folded into focus. She put on the contraption, spread her little veins, and inhaled like a winter hearth denied wood. The exhale slithered low, a soundless droning that Rowan felt in his bones. Ern screamed. The chain around Rowan turned to red dust that slid off his skin. The captain's sword slumped, blade puddling into flakes. The men ran, stumbling over the sudden hush where their metal died. Outside, the street rang with alarm. More will come, Rowan said, binding his shoulder. And the Warden of Iron himself. Then we go to him, Nyari said, because she was a princess, small or not. Before he comes to everyone else. The warden's holdfast rose at the edge of the blighted fields, walls bristling with spearheads, the earth around it a sickness of grey. Villagers huddled beyond the ditch, faces hollowed by a rot that was more than hunger. The same wrongness that had taken Rowan's sister purred in the soil, a patient gnawing.